Hello, hello. I'm Casey.
And I'm Fallon.
And we are
Render the Darkness. Okay, so this one is my episode, and it is about the murder of Charlie Silver.
Ooh, Charlie Silver. That sounds like a cowboy name. Is he a cowboy?
Maybe. No. But maybe.
I guess I'll just have to listen and find out. But if he wasn't, he should have been.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very cowboyish name.
Anyway, continue.
Okay. Okay, so I've gathered I've gathered some of my information from a few different sources. There's a couple of legends about this case that I'll discuss at the end of the episode. I do want to go ahead and let you know that there is a mention of sexual violence. I'm not going to go into much detail, but there is a mention of rape. Okay, so Charles Silver, also known as Charlie, was born on October 3rd, 1812. He was the only child of Reverend Jacob and Elizabeth Silver. Unfortunately, his mother died during childbirth.
Aw, that's sad.
Yeah. His father remarried three more times, resulting in Charlie having 13 siblings altogether.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids.
That's a lot of kids.
Charlie's half-brother, Alfred, stated that, quote, he was strong and healthy, good-looking, and agreeable. He was a favorite at all the parties, for he could make merry by talking, laughing, playing musical instruments. I think he was the best fifer I've ever heard. Okay, so a fifer, I kind of looked it up, is someone who plays like a small flute, kind of like...
Yeah, like in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but, you know, the...
Like a piper?
Yeah, Pied Piper, you know,
Yeah.
The little rat story.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's see. Okay, so Charlie took after his dad, being 6 feet tall, strong with dark hair, black eyes, and a fair complexion. Now, Frances Silver, she was also known as Frankie, was born, some sources say 1814, others say 1815. I couldn't really find, like a solid concrete answer. She was born to Isaiah and Barbara Nee Howell Stewart. When Frankie was 6, her family moved to Burt County, North Carolina mountains around 1820. They lived in the town of Kona on one side of the mountain ridge, and on the other side of that ridge lived the Silver family.
Okay, so is Frankie and Charlie siblings?
No, they just, they're living on the opposite side of mountains. Their family
they just happen to both have the same last name?
Well, Frankie Silver is going to eventually be his wife.
Oh. Okay. I'm sorry.
So, no, it's all right.
I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. I jumped ahead.
It's all right. No worries. I probably should have, made that a little bit more clear. So that was my bad.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right. So, Alfred, which was Charlie's brother, described Frankie as, quote, a mighty likely little woman. She had fair skin, bright eyes, and was counted very pretty. She had charms. I have never saw a smarter little woman. She could cord and spin her 3 yards of cotton a day on a big wheel. So I'm guessing that was pretty good to do in like a single day back then.
It's probably pretty good to do in a single day now.
Yeah, it'd probably be pretty difficult to do.
If you were using the same equipment that they had accessible back then.
Yeah.
I would be impressed.
People said that at first Charlie and Frankie were made for each other. They were seen as a perfect couple. Now, Charlie and Frankie moved into their own cabin in 1830. Unfortunately, there was a much darker side to the mountain lifestyle in that time period. The community was, I'm going to say, a little sexist, and it was not unusual for a husband to get angry at his wife, and he would end up killing her, and wouldn't get any kind of punishment for that terrible deed whatsoever. It was just kind of like the norm back then.
Okay.
All right.
That brings a new meaning to that.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to hear. Okay, now Wayne Silver, he's a Silver family historian. He went back to Mitchell County after his career in business and music in different parts of the country. When anyone wants any kind of information on Charlie and Frankie, he is the person that people would ask. He will quickly point out that he does not believe that Frankie flew into a jealous rage because she thought Charlie was cheating on her and attacked him with an axe while he was sleeping. He also doesn't think that "God bless the child" was uttered as his last words. Wayne does say that no one knows what truly happened that night because only 3 people were present at the time: Charlie, Frankie, and they did have a 13-month-old baby named Nancy.
Aww.
Now, this is what Wayne Silver believes happened that night. Quote, "The story goes that Charlie had been sent to get the Christmas liquor. On the way home, he does what any 19-year-old might do. He takes a nip. It's good. Takes another nip. That's even better. He arrives home to a complaining wife and a screaming baby. Suddenly, Charlie is in a foul mood. Things turn ugly. He picks up his gun and shouts, 'So help me, Frankie, if you don't shut up, I'm going to shoot the both of you.' He probably didn't mean it, but by this time, Frankie had picked up an axe, screams, 'No, I won't let you hurt me or my baby.' She swings the axe, and Charlie is dead.
Oh.
I will never believe it was a premeditated murder, and few in my family have ever believed it was. In fact, it was more of an accident than anything else," end quote.
It was an accident that she picked up an axe and swung it at him?
Yeah, I guess she just was afraid that he was going to hurt her and the baby.
So like a self-defense kind of a thing?
Yeah.
But definitely not an accident.
No, not an accident, just more of a self-preservation type thing.
Yeah, like an instinctual whatever was closest to protect them. Okay.
Yeah, that's what, him and most of his family are thinking.
Oh, okay. I got it.
Now, some people say that more than likely what sent Frankie to the gallows was her behavior after the murder of Charlie. Try to put murder and Charlie together. Murdy. She was a woman in a society that was run by men, and she had just killed her husband. So she wasn't thinking that the crime could be justified in any way. She was also thinking that she had to make it look as though Charlie had never come back home.
Oh, so she tried to stage or change the events to make it herself look better?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that doesn't help anybody.
No, not at all. Okay, so it's said that there is speculation that Frankie's mother, Barbara, and her brother, Blackston, which I really like that name, had helped her with what happened next. Wayne Silver says to Imagine, quote, "You're 18 years old, you've just killed your husband, you're scared. Would it not be normal to run to Mama? And would it not be the motherly thing for Barbara Stewart to say, 'Yes, we'll help you, Frankie, but if you get into trouble, you must leave us out of it,'" end quote. So what came next was a horrific act. That night, Frankie made a quick decision to dismember and burn Charles's body, which ended in complete failure.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I don't like the road this is going down at all.
They didn't realize how much of a difficult task it would be to burn a body in a fireplace. The first person to become suspicious of Charlie's disappearance was an older gentleman by the name of Jack Collins. He waited until Frankie had left the cabin to look around. What he found was small fragments of bone and greasy ashes in the fireplace.
Oh, that's suspicious.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
That's a pretty suspicious thing to find.
He also found a pool of blood, he said, quote, "was as big as a hog liver." Not sure how big a hog liver is, but okay.
So, with that statement, I don't know if that's just a comparison to the blood, or maybe his initial thought was that maybe they had killed a pig, or like, was his first train of thought that this was a person? Like that this could be Charlie, or was he initially like, okay, maybe...
I don't know if he, like, at first thought it was a person. That's probably not, like, what you would automatically assume. But yeah. I don't know. He might have had some kind of weird suspicion of it. But yeah, okay. So, he said that it was as big as a hog liver beneath the floorboards of the cabin. Now, Charlie's head and torso were found outside of the cabin.
Well, there goes the hog theory. If I would have waited a second, I wouldn't have asked that question.
Yeah. Okay, so on January 9th, 1832, Frankie, Barbara, and Blackson were arrested. On January 10th, they were sent to be jailed at Morganton County, seat of Burt County, which at the time was surrounding what is now known as Mitchell County.
Okay.
The people that lived on the mountain at the time were said to be ignorant, but they were not stupid. The mountain people were also very loyal to their families and felt that if one got cut, they would all bleed. On January 13th, Isaiah Stewart said that his wife, daughter, and son were being detained illegally. The charges were dropped on January 17th against Barbara and Blackson. However, Frankie remained behind bars. Now, the charges were formally dropped against Blackson and Barbara on March 17th, 1832, but Frankie was indicted for murder. There are things about Frankie's trial that raised many questions. In the legal system at the time, defendants were not allowed to take the stand in their own defense. And Frankie's attorney and her father decided that she would plead not guilty as it was self-defense and make the state prove that she was guilty, which is believed to have been a really bad decision.
Yeah, because you're going against all men that are already against you from the start. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't be hard for one of them to fabricate almost any scenario in which that would be her fault, I would think.
Right, yeah. See, that's what I thought too. I was like, oh no, Frankie.
Yeah, that was not a great decision on Frankie's part.
The next day, the jury stated that they were deadlocked, 9-3 for an acquittal, and asked to hear from certain witnesses again. After the witnesses come back in, they said their testimonies again to the jury. They found Frankie guilty in a unanimous vote. It was obvious that some of the testimony had changed during the second round of the witness statements. I'm not sure whose or what, but something definitely changed for it to go from deadlocked to unanimous.
Yeah.
Okay, now Frankie was set to be executed in July of 1832. Her lawyer decided to appeal the verdict, and Judge Donnell filed the appeal on May 3rd, 1832. North Carolina Supreme Court denied the appeal, and her execution was to take place during the fall term of Burt Superior Court. But Judge Davis L. Swain, I want to say Swain probably, was badly injured when he fell from his horse-drawn carriage, and the fall term was canceled. So Frankie thought she would receive a pardon when Judge Swain was elected governor because he was from the mountains, so he kind of knew a lot of the people, and now he had the power to be able to do it. According to the book, The Untold Story of Frankie Silver by author Perry Dean Young, there were people who wanted Frankie to have a pardon. 7 members of that jury that unanimously voted her guilty, they all signed a petition asking the governor to give her a pardon.
Okay.
Like 7 of them. So I wonder, like, what may have changed, if anything, in their minds.
How do you go from finding her unanimously guilty to the majority wanting her to be pardoned?
Right. But apparently this didn't have an effect on him.
Oh.
Alright, so Frankie's dad was tired of waiting for her release. So on May 18th, 1833, Isaiah Stewart, his brother, and another man broke her out of jail.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Now, people thought that they had to have an inside help because Governor Swain said that 90% of the community wanted her set free. She was captured 8 days later in Rutherford County on her way to the Tennessee border. The number of people that wanted her set free grew larger, and many of these people were upper social class women of Morganton that has sent their own request of appeal for Frankie to the governor.
Oh, that'll help.
You would think it would. I mean, being upper class women. But it is said that Swain had 2 reasons for not letting Frankie go free. One, he was considered a lenient man as a judge, so he wanted to have a new image and reputation as a governor. Wayne Silver thinks that Swain knew that the Silver family had influences. Even though they didn't have a lot of money, they did, however, own a lot of land. So if Swain wanted to see Frankie hung, then she would. Okay, so he tried to say that W.C. Bevins, he wrote a letter. He tried to say that letter, because it was looking for a pardon. He tried to say that letter actually never arrived on time. But this letter was dated, and Swain had plenty of time to stop the execution. It said in some reports that Frankie was hung from the neck until she died from a limb of a large oak tree that was located on a hill above the courthouse in Morganton. Perry Dean Young, the author of the book The Untold Story of Frankie Silver, thinks there was a scaffold used.
Oh.
Not sure exactly why, but that's just... in another book written by Sharyn McCrum called The Ballad of Frankie Silver, there's a part that says there was a large crowd that heard her father say, quote, "Die with it in ye, Frankie," end quote, when Frankie was asked if she had anything to say before her execution was carried out. So, to me, that kind of sounds like her dad thinks that she did it, and he wants her just to keep quiet about it. What do you think?
To me, I kind of think that, yeah, I would take that as him kind of saying, take it to the grave.
Right.
Don't say anything. I would definitely take that to be what he was maybe suggesting to her, was just keep quiet and don't say anything.
Yeah, see, that's what I was thinking. So it was like, Okay, so it said that on July 12th, 1833, Frankie died bravely. And her dad, Isaiah, already had her a coffin ready to take her back home. Unfortunately, the weather being as hot as it was, her body, at only like 90 pounds, began to decompose very quickly. So her dad was, so her dad, I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. So her dad wasn't able to take her to the place that he originally intended to bury her. Instead, he had to settle burying her 8 miles outside of town alongside the old Buckthorn Tavern Road. It is said that her headstone is hard to find after it was erected in 1951, but it is believed to be buried in a far corner of the DeVault Farm, 10 miles west of Morganton, North Carolina, off of Highway 126. Frankie and Charlie's daughter, Nancy, was said to be raised by her grandparents, but it's not clear as if it was the Silvers or the Stewarts. Okay. Later in her life, she married a man named David Parker, who had unfortunately died during the Civil War. The children that they had together were rumored to have been brought up by other people, but were reunited with Nancy when she married her second husband, William C. Robinson. They ended up having one son together, who they named Commodore. Okay, so this is the part where it's going to kind of mention rape. So, Nancy's great-granddaughter said that one of her daughters was raped by William, and that Nancy kicked him out, and she decided to change her last name back to Parker, which is, her first husband's name that died in the war, and that it is on her gravestone today. Now, Charlie was buried in 3 different graves in the Silver Family Cemetery that lies behind Kona Baptist Church in Kona, North Carolina. The reason he has 3 different graves is because his body parts were not found at the same time, so when they found each part of his body, they would bury them. So, so right now there's like 3 markers of, his body, but there's like a newer marker as of today. So
that kind of combines all 3 of them together, or?
No, it's like 3 markers, like set beside each other, and there's a newer one in front of them. So I guess technically there's 4.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now the legends we're going to talk about. This is one legend says that Frankie actually confessed to the murder in a poem while she was in jail. The poem was called Frankie Silver's Confession, that she supposedly sung before she was hung. This had been questioned over the years, and after a lot of research, it was found that she did not write or sing the confession. Many historians found that the poem was written by a school teacher named Thomas S. Scott, who lived in the area at the time of the execution. The second legend says that on December 23rd, 1831, Frankie had gone to see her mother to ask if she had seen Charlie, because he and his friend George Young went hunting and Charlie never came home. Her mother noticed that she was acting a little strange and distressed when she was talking to her. When Charlie still did not come home the next day, his dad and Frankie went to George's house. George said that him and Charlie had never had any plans to go hunting, and in fact, he had not seen him in a while. Frankie swore that George was lying, so John took her back home to her cabin where they found Charlie's dog. Now, this was strange because anytime Charlie went hunting, he always took his dog with him. The fact that he didn't take his dog led him to believe that something had happened, and he called the sheriff. And the sheriff started to do a search on the property and came upon the scattered remains of Charlie.
Okay.
And it's also said that the Stewarts did not have a lot of money, but the Silvers owned a lot of land and were considered wealthy, which we said earlier. Supposedly, some of them had tried to talk Charlie into selling some of his land, but he didn't want to. So this was the reason for his murder. Charlie's brother Alfred described in detail what happened, even though there wasn't really a way for him to know all of this because he wasn't there. But he said that Frankie had asked Charlie to go chop wood for the fire. He said, quote, "Being tired and sleepy after the labor of chopping, my brother lay down on the floor close by the fire with his little girl in his arms and went to sleep. His head rested on the inverted stool for a pillow. Frankie gently took the baby from his breast, put it to bed, picked up the axe from the door where she had placed it for that purpose, and whacked his head half off at a single blow. She intended to cut it clean off, but miscalculated and either stood too close or too far back. The first lick did not kill him instantly, for he sprang to his feet and cried, 'God bless the child.' The wife fled to the bed by the child and covered herself up, till she heard Charles fall, then jumped out and finished the job with the second blow," end quote. Some members of the Silver family blamed Frankie's parents for the murder, saying that her dad was urged to kill Charlie, or that he would kill her instead. So something interesting that I found on the site called Buried in Three Graves, the murder of Charlie Silver, was that some of the family died strange deaths. Her dad was cutting down a chestnut tree and either a limb or the entire tree fell on him.
Oh, ow.
Yeah, depending on the source. Now, her mother died of a snake bite, and her brother Blackston was hung as a horse thief in Kentucky.
Wow.
Her other brother, called Joe, died of sudden death at the age of 49. Her brother Jack, that was in the Civil War, he was actually sent home due to old age and died at 57.
Well, I think back then that probably was old age.
Yeah, that's true. I just thought it was strange that they said old age, and
57.
Yeah. Another interesting fact that I found on the site as well was that Frankie was reported as the first woman hung in North Carolina, but the actual first woman to be hung was a woman by the name of Magdalene Collar in 1720 for hiding the death of her bastard son. That's what they said. I didn't say that. Also, women...
That was mean, Fallon.
Yeah. Also, women were being hung in North Carolina from the 1720s all the way up to the last hanging of Caroline Shipp in 1891. But some sources say 1892. Okay. So, yeah. That is the story of Charlie Silver.
That is a very interesting story. There's, most of the theories or legends or whatever they were referring to him as, a lot of them seem plausible.
Yeah, they do.
She never really gave her full account, so it's really hard to determine which one was the real scenario.
Yeah.
That happened. People speculated, the brother and...
Yeah, I think they were also, trying to hint at that, with that one story that she was being abused because surely, if that's the first time he's ever said that, first thing she wouldn't think of to do is to go protect her baby and grab an axe. So it's had to have happened multiple times, so that one seems like it might.
I kind of think that the pre-planned one sounds pretty plausible as well, just because if you had truly done something like that in a self-defense manner, I wouldn't think that your first instinct would be to, how can I hide what has just happened? I would think that your first instinct would be to go to your parents or wherever you considered refuge and tell them exactly what had happened, and I would think they would encourage you to go to the police with them, go with you to verify, and the dad and the brothers could go and verify as well, which would give you the male backup that you would have needed at that time.
Yeah, but
it seems like an extreme reaction to dismember him and burn him.
Yeah, that was a little much, but like I said, I don't know.
But maybe, like you said, maybe it was something that happened regularly, and it had just, because he had been drinking, it just really escalated further than
Yeah.
it had ever before. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It's an interesting case for sure.
Well, thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. It was pretty fun to put together.
Nice. Okay, well, that is the end of episode 2, written, researched, and narrated by Fallon. If you liked this case and you want to hear more cases like this, or if you have any case ideas of your own that you would like to throw our way, or you have any comments or questions about the case, please feel free to reach out. We are now on Twitter and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, and our email address is renderthedarknesspod@gmail.com. And you can also find our episodes on Amazon Music as well as Spotify.
Yeah, and I will post the links and the books for this episode in the show notes as well.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is our episode, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we are...
Render the Darkness. See you next time.
Bye.